everybody. This is Barbara Howard again. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast, and I'm excited to have a new best friend on the podcast with me today. Her name is Stella Oni, and I met Stella through the Crime Writers of Color anthology work that we just put out called Festive Mayhem 2. If you have not gotten a copy of it, what are you waiting for? It's a limited edition, so you've got to get a copy. It's online only. There are no paperbacks, so we can't sign anything this time around. But you can pick it up now through all the online retailers until January 31st of 2022. There are bonus recipes at the back, so remember, pick that up before it's too late. And Stella has a story in that anthology as well, and that's how we met. And I can tell you, we have all bonded so much through this anthology project, and it's been so much fun. And Stella has, of course, many other works out there. She is a celebrated author in her own right outside of Crime Writers of Color, and she has a story in the new anthology that's out there called Midnight Murder. I believe that's the name of it, but she can tell us all about that and a little bit about her life as a writer. So Stella, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you so much for having me. I just love your voice, and I love this podcast, so thanks for having me. So you want me to say a little bit about myself, right?
Yes, tell us a little bit about your illustrious career as a writer. And let me say this very quickly to everyone. Not only are we not in the same city, we're not in the same time zone. We are in different countries. We are in totally different countries. So tell us where you are, Stella, and tell us about your life there as a writer.
Okay, absolutely. I'm in London. So you're kind of 5 hours behind, and I'm 5 hours ahead of you. I'm British Nigerian. So born in London, went back to live in Nigeria, was brought up in Nigeria, and came back to live in London. So I live in London now. So yeah, it's kind of like late here and evening for you, Barbara. I'm going to say just a bit about myself. Well, I kind of like, when I started out as a young child, I loved reading. I was obsessed with reading. I was obsessed with everything to do with reading. I went to libraries, visited libraries, and just read my way through everything back in Nigeria, and fell in love with every kind of book. And then I had a mother that had a library of books, many books, and I kind of like just read my way through her books. And the funniest thing is that being in Nigeria, they're very focused on you getting your education and getting a career. So being a writer, it never occurred to me to try to, say, become a writer in Nigeria. But I did a lot of scribbling. I did a lot of diary work, did a lot of scribbling in notebooks and diaries, but it didn't occur to me to become a writer. And when I came back to finish my degree, my first degree in Nigeria, I did my second degree here in the UK. So when I kind of like came into the UK in my 20s, and kind of, when you're a young adult, you kind of like look around to think, what do I really want to do with myself? And I could not settle on anything I wanted to do, but I knew that I had to make some money. But I started out just doing casual work, and then I don't know what it was, but I then suddenly decided I could be a writer. I don't know if it was just being in London and knowing that there were others. There were quite a lot of literary Nigerian writers, African writers at that time. So I then said, okay, I'm going to try to be a writer, become a writer. And I said, but I gave myself a plan, because I knew that writers, you don't really make money. I mean, very few people make money from writing. So I thought, okay, I'll give myself a 5-year plan and try to write. And I gave myself a 5-year plan and wrote a literary fiction, which is still in the drawer somewhere, which to me, I still love that work, and I think I'm going to still try to get it published. But anyway, I wrote it, gave myself a 5-year plan, and did I try to get published? Oh my goodness, it took a long time to time and trial and rejection upon rejection, and in the end I decided to leave writing and went on to do my master's in IT, got married, had children, and then years later I decided to come back into writing, and I said, okay, I'm going to try crime fiction. And then I wrote crime fiction, and it took years to get published as a crime fiction author, but well, Barbara, here I am today. Got published last year, my debut fiction, Deadly Sacrifice, got published last year by a small press called Jacaranda in the UK. They were quite brave. They wanted to publish and highlight 20 black authors in 2020, and I got picked as one of the authors. So that's how I got published. And Deadly Sacrifice was actually shortlisted for a literary prize here in the UK, and also was Audible's crime fiction monthly pick for Audible when it came out. So that was quite encouraging. But yeah, that's how I started out. I hope I didn't go on and on, Barbara. But that's kind of like the way I started out.
What I love about what you said is you gave yourself a 5-year plan. Like, I faced the same decision as a young person when I thought, this is what I want to do, but I would never be able to live off of that. There's no money in it. How can I exist and do what I really love? And I too turned in the direction of political science, and then IT eventually was my career. And full circle, here I am back in front of a desk trying to get these books out here that I've been carrying around inside. But I love that you gave yourself the 5-year plan to say, I'm going to do this and see what happens. So that's a great idea for people, because we get those questions from time to time. What kind of advice would you give to someone who is getting started as a writer? And I think that's a great piece of advice right there, just that little nugget right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying that the 5-year plan, I think, is a good one because it's realistic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we know that writing, we know writers who have said it. After my 15 years or so of trying to get published, being a crime fiction writer, I've come across writers that said we've been doing it for 20 years, and that kind of pales beside my 15 years or so. So sometimes actually writing is a continuous thing. It's not something I don't think, because it's creative, it's not something you actually give a plan to per se, but it's good to be realistic about your chances, and maybe have something to do, but never kind of like leave it, just continue with it,
Yes, and there's a lot of research that goes into what it takes to get a book published, and that's key also, because the book industry is really a business where the creative end is what you're writing, but then beyond that, there's all the editing and the promotion and the selecting of the graphics and the illustrators and getting it distributed and all the marketing, all of it that goes into. There's a lot of machinery that's happening between the time a person sits down to create a story and it actually becomes a tangible object in somebody's lap. So it takes time to research that as well. So like you said, I'm totally agreeing with you. There's something that's practical to sit down and make that decision. What I'd love for you to do now, Stella, is read a little something from one of your stories and share with us. Would you do that?
Yes, thank you very much, Barbara. I'm going to be reading from my debut crime fiction, Deadly Sacrifice. It came out in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. So I'm just going to start and read a few things. I'm not just going to give it a context. My main character, her name is Stokes Ade. She had been a uniformed officer for about 10 years before she became a trainee detective. And what I'm going to read from, which is just right from the very beginning, is her first job. So she was going out on an interview with her supervisor, Philip Dean, and I'm just starting from there. So I'm giving it context. So I begin. When Detective Sergeant Philip Dean and Detective Constable Tokes Ade stepped out of the warmth of their car into the chilly embrace of a winter day, a disturbing, gruesome find was the last thing on their mind. With the wind whipping at her neck, sharp as razor blades, Dixie Toke wished she had remembered to bring her woolly scarf. "Let's hope we're not chasing shadows," said Philip Dean. "Shadows?" she asked, glancing sideways at him. He was a tall man with thinning brown hair, pale skin, and a downcast expression. She had come under his wing as a trainee detective at the Stanford CID unit in East London when our appointed supervisor became ill. "Nothing. Don't worry about it," he muttered. They were at Cedar Estate, a sprawling human cauldron of a place, to visit a Mrs. Bello, whose 9-year-old granddaughter had gone missing 2 days before. Togs was here to act as a Yoruba interpreter. The team she came to interview, the team that came to interview Mrs. Bello had complained they could not understand her, or she could not understand them. Who knows? This would be her first proper case on the unit as a detective. She was relieved to be out of police uniform after 10 years. "Yoruba," Philip Dean changed the subject. "I'm trying to learn. Do you know any Igbo or Hausa?" "No, just Yoruba." She did not let her surprise show at his knowledge of the 3 main Nigerian languages. She continued to scan the area as she spoke. Mrs. Bello's flat was in one of the many tower blocks on the estate. She heard some laughter and saw that on the other side of the path were low walls surrounding a wide raised concrete platform that acted as a bridge and entry to 4 tower blocks. In what she thought might be Mrs. Bello's block, she eyed a communal bin of overflowing discarded furniture, mattresses with foamy entrails, chairs with missing arms, a gas cooker with a blackened hat. She saw a few boys joyfully kicking the football through puddles of yesterday's dirty rainwater. As they approached, Toke saw that the boys had stopped and were crouched over something on the ground. She suddenly felt a tingling in her belly from her uniform days. "You okay there, boys?" she called out. They jumped back and turned pale, shocked faces to the detectives. A boy with spiky blonde hair pointed a shaky finger at the ground. "A hand! Whiskey found a hand!" It seemed to wake up the rest as they tried to all talk at once. Toke turned to a pimply boy of about 14, who seemed to be the oldest. He said his name was Tommy. He was desperately trying to contain a Yorkshire Terrier that was whipping itself against its leash, adding its frenzied barking to the confusion. "Whiskey brought it to me," he said. "He dropped it at my feet. I thought it was a stick. His voice broke. Philip Dean waved his hand. "Boys, move back and let's see." With an eye kept on the boys, Toke watched him take a long look at the thing on the ground before turning to her with a grimace. "Welcome to East London CID, Detective Ade." He slid his hand into his faded fisherman's jacket and brought out his phone. Toke stared at the tiny human hand, severed at the wrist, little fingers swollen and split like a bunch of rotten bananas. There was a stench of gone-off meat. Could it be the missing girl? She dismissed it. That was only 2 days ago. She turned back to the boys, thankful that none had tried to leave. "Boys, I'm Detective Ade, and this is Detective Dean. We are the police." Thank you.
Awesome. Give the title one more time of the book.
It's Deadly Sacrifice, and it's a gritty read, police procedural. It's about human trafficking and ritualistic killing, and it's actually it was inspired by a real life crime that happened in 2001 when a torso of an African boy was found in River Thames. So it was loosely inspired by that. It is quite gritty.
Okay. And where can people pick that up? Is it on Amazon, I'm assuming?
Amazon, I would say, is the main thing because it's not widely available in the States yet, but it is on Amazon. It can be picked on Amazon.
Okay. And I made a mistake earlier when I said the name of the other anthology was called Midnight Murder. It's not. It's called Midnight Hour. and it is available in paperback, and there are 20 authors included in that anthology of crime fiction that Stella is part of, along with Festive Mayhem too, where we met. But Stella, what I'd love you to do now is share with everyone, are you going to be somewhere where they can meet you, or your address online where people can find you, your social media links, whatever you want to share, where people can find out more about you and your books, and if you have a contact information, if anyone's interested in contacting you.
Okay, so people can find me on Twitter. Stella Oni the writer on Twitter. StellaOniTheWriter.com. You can connect with me on my website. You can connect with me, Stella Oni the Writer, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Stella Oni the Writer, on Facebook, S Oni the Writer on Facebook. I think it's Stella Oni the Writer. Mostly Stella Oni the Writer or S Oni the Writer. Yes, so you can connect with me there, and of course I'm kind of like poking my head out a little bit like a little chicken on TikTok. But it's Stella Oni the Writer on TikTok. So I'm on most of the major platforms. Failing anything, Google my name and you'll be able to connect with me somewhere. I know, I'm sure of that, but yes, it's Stella Oni the Writer in most of the platforms. I'll be more than happy to connect with you, in all the major platforms. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to spell it for everyone. It's StellaOni, Stella Oni the Writer. And she keeps it simple across all platforms. I love that because it makes life so much easier when people know how to search for you. That is awesome.
Thank you very, very much, Barbara. Awesome.
I appreciate you taking time out. You're so busy. I'm not doing much on TikTok either, so thanks for the reminder that I need to get busy over there.
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually, TikTok. If you get the hang of it. I went to Malta on holiday recently and just put together some video shorts, and I put down quite a lot of views on that. And I thought I'd do a food blog writing and travel and food writing blog. I love writing on food, so I thought I would do a lot more on that on TikTok. Focus on travel writing and my books.
So, before we sign off, we're going to sign off in 2 seconds, but I remember something. Didn't you say that your goal was to travel the world and write about food or something like that?
Absolutely, Barbara. Yes, that's my goal. So anywhere I go, I'm quite I'm quite keen on looking at the food, the culture, and just generally connecting with people. I love doing that. So yes, that's my goal.
Well, everybody, you heard that. So reach out to Stella. Tell her where she should go to get the best food wherever you are, because she's going to travel the world, and we're going to watch her do that. Find out where she's going to be through her website and her social media links. Hey, everybody, thanks again for listening. Thank you, Stella, for taking time out and being on my podcast. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with everything that you've got currently and out there published and everything that you're working on. I look forward to reading more of your stories and maybe collaborating again in the future. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Love these things. And bye-bye all.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.